Hi everybody and welcome back to Trudge, a journey to being recovered. I am your host. My name is Dexter. I am a recovered drug addict and alcoholic, and I'd like to get back to what we were doing last week and continue to finish the chapter Foreword to the second edition. Last week we finished Foreword to the first edition and the preface in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the fourth edition. And this week we are going to finish up Foreword to the second edition, the third and the fourth. And then next week we're going to get into a chapter called The Doctor's Opinion, which will really start getting us getting a basic understanding of what this big book is about. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing pretty fantastic, and I'm very, very grateful to be back and to be able to be of service to those who are afflicted. So, before we get started, let's go ahead and say a third step prayer for those of you who do not know it and care to join. It is on page 63. If you have been watching previous submissions of Trudge, it will be highlighted pink because pink means prayers. So let's go ahead and take a second, invite God in so we can do this work, and say the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. Thank you for those of you who joined in with that prayer, and let's get back to work. Last week we finished up on Roman numeral XIX, Foreword to the second edition. We're going to start at the second paragraph, and last week we began to touch on the formulation of the traditions of AA based on the periodical, this book, this basic text that came out in 1955. This is the second edition. It says, as we discovered the principles by which the individual alcoholic could live, so we had to evolve principles by which all AA groups and AA as a whole could survive and function effectively. You know, here you have all these people from all different walks of life. You know, would there be struggles over leadership? What would we do with money? You know, without the traditions, we would only have made like the slowest progress. The traditions are just as important as the steps. You know, without them, this movement would have never really come to fruition the way it has. It was thought that no alcoholic man or woman could be excluded from our society. Could be excluded from our society. I have that underlined. You know, this program is for, for people who are real alcoholics, but there are spiritual principles to be attained. You know, a better way of life is there. You know, your family can benefit by learning about this. You know, there's no exclusions for people who want to find God, who want to have that experience of, whatever it is you're struggling with removed. That our leaders might serve but never govern, that each group was to be autonomous and there was to be no professional class of therapy. This should all sound familiar to those of you who go to meetings pretty regularly. This is read at most meetings, in most 12-step programs. You know, some of them are different depending on what program you're in, but this is the birth of the traditions here. There were to be no fees or dues or expenses to be met by our own voluntary contributions. There was to be the least possible organization, even in our service centers. Our public relations were to be based upon attraction rather than promotion. Now, I have that attraction rather than promotion underlined. I think this is a really important part of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think a lot of times these three words are misused. A lot of times you'll hear people in meetings say, this is about attraction rather than promotion, and use it to kind of in reference to how you carry yourself at meeting level. You're not supposed to be saying this or saying that or promoting the steps. What are we supposed to be promoting in our meetings? Isn't the whole point of being in our meetings, promoting the solution, so those of us who are new and don't have that can also attain a spiritual experience and get well? I think that's a misused term. This is a public relations policy that we're talking about attraction rather than promotion. This is not about, well, sit there and be quiet and let people watch your feet. Let people watch your walk. We're supposed to be out there helping other people. We're supposed to be promoting, the steps and the power of God. Now, we're not supposed to be throwing big books at people. We're not supposed to rant. We're not supposed to be on evangelistic phase about this program. But we're most definitely supposed to, let others know, this is how I've recovered. This is how I got to where I'm at. This is what I've used. This really has nothing to do with keeping your mouth shut and letting people watch you. I think that's a term that kind of gets misused in Alcoholics Anonymous and in a lot of programs, a lot of 12-step programs. So I have that underlined. It goes on to say, it was decided that all members might be anonymous at the level of press, radio, TV, and films. That's attraction rather than promotion. And in no circumstances, and I have the words no circumstances underlined, no circumstances, should we ever give endorsements, make alliances, or enter public controversies. This was the substance of AA's 12 traditions, which are stated in full on page 561 of this book, just a few pages before the spiritual experience in the back of the book. None of these principles had the force of rules or laws. They had become so widely accepted by 1950 that they were confirmed by a first international conference held at Cleveland. Remember, it's like this thing, Cleveland, Akron, New York. That's where this whole thing really started to manifest. Today, the remarkable unity of AA is one of the greatest assets our society has. Without the traditions, we're done. It's just that simple. The steps are for us, the traditions are for us as a whole. They're very vital and necessary. While the internal difficulties of our adolescent period were being ironed out, public acceptance of AA grew by leaps and bounds. For this was two principal reasons: the large numbers of recoveries and the reunited homes. So 1955, 1956, people are really seeing this take hold. Some of the most hopeless drug addicts, alcoholics are getting well. Their families are getting well and staying well. These made their impressions everywhere. Okay? We're going to start talking a little bit about the recovery rates that were taking place around this time. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, okay, and those are the key words. I have the words really tried underlined. 50% got sober at once and remained that way. Half. Why are our rates so low today? I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of us aren't really trying. A lot of us kind of want to do it our way. I did it my way, I really tried, but I really tried to do it my way, not the way it was written in the book, and it didn't work for me. A lot of our recovery rates to this day, they're just so low. Nothing close to even being half. Half would be like a dream at this point. 25% sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder who stayed on with AA, they showed improvement. Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided that they didn't want the program. But great numbers of these, about 2 out of 3, began to return as time passed. So there were people out there trying to do it their own way, trying to find other mediums to get well, but they have, in the end, returned to Alcoholics Anonymous. Another reason for wide acceptance of AA was the ministration of friends, the help that we got here. It was just so vital to this movement moving in the right direction. Friends in medicine, religion, and the press, together with innumerable others who became our able and persistent advocates, these people that absolutely backed the message that Ebby got from Bill. Bill gave to Bob, and the two of them found and gave to Bill D. And that movement, as it started to grow, the Dr. Silkworths of the world, some of the men and women we talked about in the previous foreword that we read, we would have only made the slowest progress without the help of these people advocating for us. Without such support, AA could only have made the slowest progress. Some of the recommendations of AA's early medical and religious friends will be found further on in this book, so there's more to come. We needed the doctors. We absolutely had to have it. Dr. Silkworth in particular. The next sentence is going to be underlined, and this is one that you hear a lot of misconceptions about. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a religious organization. It's just not. The God of your own understanding is, the goal to attain that and have a spiritual awakening. There's no specific God to buy into, no specific way to buy into it. There's a lot of different ways people believe that they can do this. I'm talking about my experience here when I'm on having you view me, taking you through the book. This is what worked for me, and it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the power of God as I understand God, as you understand God, your own very concept, okay? Neither does AA take any particular medical point of view, though we cooperate cooperate widely with men of medicine as well as the men of religion. So we're all working together. You know, a lot of doctors send alcoholics here. You know, I know a person who went and talked to their pastor. The pastor said, you might want to try AA. I mean, we all work together. Okay? Alcohol being no respecter of persons, we are an accurate cross-section of America, and in distant lands, the same democratic evening up process is now going on. By personal religious affiliation, we include Catholics, Protestants, Jews, Hindus, and a sprinkling of Muslims and Buddhists. This was in 1955. More than 15% of us are women, you know, today. I mean, I'd even go as far as saying maybe even half of us are women, you know. Your religious affiliations have really nothing to do with the program of action that's in this book. It's not you have to do one or the other. You could do them both. You know, I was raised a Seventh-day Adventist. My religious convictions have absolutely nothing to do with how I run my life in relation to the steps and the power of God. You can have your cake and eat it too. It's not one or the other. At present, our membership is pyramiding. I have the word pyramiding, circle. That's one of those buzzwords that are meticulously placed in the book. You know, pyramiding, mushrooming, like really growing at an alarming rate is what they're trying to express to us. At the rate of about 20% a year. This is 20% a year. Imagine putting money in the bank and having it, you know, grow at 20% a year from 1955 to now. I mean, that's a high number. That's a very high number. So far, the total problem of several million and actual and potential alcoholics in the world, we have only made a scratch. In all probability, we shall never be able to touch more than a fair fraction of the alcohol problem in all its ramifications. This is POI orange. You should already have this highlighted. It says, upon therapy for the alcoholic himself, the drug addict himself, we surely have no monopoly. They're telling you that this isn't the only way you can do it. You know, for real alcoholics and real addicts who have placed themselves beyond human aid, more times than not, this is what has worked. But I know some people who sit on the ground naked in sweat lodges, and that works for them. I know some people who have gone to church, never had another drink. You know, is that the norm? I don't know. That's not for me to say. I know my situation, my life. I did all those other things. I looked everywhere there was to look for the solution to my drug addiction, to my alcoholism, except what was right in front of me in the big book. And it wasn't until I came to the point where I was willing to go to any length and find the person to teach me and show me, did I have any kind of success. But we don't have a monopoly. This is not the only way. This is what has worked for me. This is what has worked for our forefathers, and this is what I'm trying to promote in you, the viewer. Yet it is our great hope that all who have yet to have found no answer may begin to find one in the pages of this book, and will presently join us in the high road to a new freedom, all highlighted orange POI. The words new freedom are going to be underlined, and we're going to come to another reference here to end the chapter. And we're going to reference page 127 in reference to the words new freedom. So I have written reference page 127 with an arrow going into those words. And then let's go to page 127 and tie in the like point, shall we? So, this is in the chapter called The Family Afterward. It is 5 lines down. And it starts with the sentence, let them remember. Everyone see this? This is going to be highlighted orange. It's kind of an important note, so we're going to highlight this. And it says, let them remember that his drinking wrought all kinds of damage that may take long to repair. If they sense these things, they will not take so seriously his periods of crankiness, depression, or apathy, which will disappear when there is tolerance, love, and spiritual understanding. That's all going to be highlighted orange. You know, this is kind of the cure for depression in my estimation, okay? The new freedom that you were going to have, you know. I took the freedom from, you know, the bondage of alcohol and drugs away, but I still had many periods of restless, irritable, and discontent behavior, and cranky, depression, you know. It was filled with apathy about everything that was going on in my life and the lives of others, you know. And these things get to also dissipate as the result of working these steps in their entirety, the way they were documented in this basic text. You know, those things get to go away as well. This is the new freedom that we're talking about here, friends. Freedom from the bondage of self in all our affairs, not just from a specific substance, not from just a thing that brought you to your knees or brought you to a meeting or brought you to trudge, but from all these things. All right? That's the new freedom we're talking about. So let's go back to page XII XXI, excuse me, and we're going to end forward to the second edition, turn the page, and we're going to begin forward to the third edition. So, this edition is one of the ones that you see in a lot of meetings. This is the the dark blue cover, and this came off the presses in 1976. I was 4, and this book by this time was really blowing up, and we're going to talk about that now. So by March of 1976, when this edition went to the printer, the total worldwide membership of Alcoholics Anonymous was conservatively estimated at more than 1 million people. So we went from the first 100 in 1939 to almost 4 years later with 1 million. With almost 28,000 groups meeting in over 90 countries. That's blowing up. There's no other way around. That secret is out, and we have absolutely blown the roof off this thing. Alcoholics Anonymous is pretty much everywhere. Surveys of groups in the United States and Canada indicate that AA is reaching out not only to more and more people, but to a wider and wider range. In 1976, women now make up more than 1/4 of the membership. 1/4, okay? We went from 15% to now 1/4. Among newer members, the proportion is nearly 1/3. 7% of the AAs surveyed are less than 30 years of age. So now we're seeing more young people come in as the times changes and things change in the world. This affliction is starting to hit younger people, I came in when I was 28, that was just my story. Younger people are starting to, find their ways to the rooms. Among them, many are in their teens. Alcoholism is really starting to hit people at a younger age at this point, 1976. The basic principles of the AA program, it appears, hold good for individuals' many different lifestyles, just as the program has brought recovery to those of many different nationalities. Okay, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, black, white, Greek, Spanish, it doesn't matter. The book is probably translated into a language you can understand. It doesn't matter where you are, who you are, where you've come from, what you've done. They're telling you that this can work for you and has been working from the inception of this basic text in 1939 to now in 1976. We've seen the mushrooming process absolutely blow the roof off people getting well and staying well. The 12 steps that summarize the program, and I have that highlighted orange, okay? Because that's what the program is. The program is the steps, okay? There are a lot of different suggestions about things you can do in the program. Go to 90 meetings in 90 days, get a sponsor, take on service commitments. But the bottom line is the program of action to becoming, recovered, that spiritual experience, the psychic change that, they talk about being absolutely necessary. That's the 12 steps. I was the drug addict alcoholic that tried to get that spiritual awakening, to have that goal be attained by not doing that. And I had to be beaten into submission, 11 years, of picking and choosing and hemming and hawing before I finally did what the book summarizes, okay? That may be called Los 12 Pasos in one country, Les 12 Etapas in another, but they trace exactly, and the word exactly is circled, okay? Very clear. It's exactly, and the rest of this paragraph is going to be highlighted orange. It says, the same path to recovery that was blazed by our earliest members of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're going to reference page 58 right now in reference to the words the same path. So I have reference page 58 with an arrow going into those two words, the same path. And let's go to page 58 and let's tie in the thought here. So this should not be foreign to anyone who's going to meetings regularly, NAA, what have you. Obviously some of the wording is different, but this is chapter 5. This is how it works. This is read usually in most meetings as well, okay? And the first sentence, and this is also POI orange, so you should already have this highlighted. And it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Again, the word path is it means the steps. Okay, this is reference from XXII. So anytime you see the word path in this book, what they're talking about is the path through the 12 steps. The journey to being recovered, it comes at the hand of taking those steps, working those steps, and then incorporating what you've learned in those steps in your life. That's how you get to be recovered. That's how you get to stay recovered. The path. All right, very clear. let's go ahead and turn back to page XXII. The next paragraph and the last paragraph to finish Foreword to the Third Edition states, and this is POY orange already, it says, in spite of the great increase in the size and the span of this fellowship, at its core it remains simple and personal. The word core is circled, okay? This is a simple program, you know. Addicts and alcoholics tend to be complicated people, you know. I know I can rationalize a paper bag, you know, and have a problem with that, you know, but the bottom line is it's simple. It's not easy, but it's a simple path, you know. And for me personally, why I came, you know, I couldn't stop drinking, I couldn't stop drugging, but after I had some abstinence behind that, there were a lot of other behaviors that I could not stop doing in the same facets, the same light, the way I used to drink and use drugs. And you know, for me, that's personal, you know. That's why I actually ended up really working the steps, because I knew that if I continued to do those behaviors, you know, that were plaguing me, clean and sober in the rooms, that I was going to pick up again. You know, eventually a drink or a drug was, you know, that was going to be the byproduct of continuing that behavior, you know, the snowflake that turned into a snowball that was about to turn into an avalanche. That's why I ended up taking the 12 steps. Simple, yet personal. You know, everyone's different. Not everyone wants to just stop drinking and drugging. Some people, they want to find God. Some people want to be recovered. You know, it's totally your deal, you know, but this happens to be the path that's laid out in our, you know, the manuscript, which is the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Each day somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another alcoholic, when one drug addict talks with another drug addict, when one sex addict, one food addict, one gambler, you know, whatever it is, sharing experience, strength, and hope. The words experience, strength, and hope are underlined, okay? And I have written that this is how recovery begins, okay? And I also have written that the core of recovery is sitting with another teaching the book, you know, teaching the path, helping that person take the steps, whether you want to call yourself a trusted friend, sponsor. I mean, the word sponsor is nowhere in this book, but it's highlighted and masterly detailed in our 12 and 12. You know, the manual that Bill W. wrote, you know, regarding our path, the 12 steps, you know, and masterly in detail, 11 years after the big book was written, whatever you want to call it, okay? That's how recovery begins, you know. Every 12-step Bill, you know, Bill 12-step Bob, you know, Bill and Bob 12-step Bill D, and the three of them were on a mission, a program of altruism to help those who were afflicted, you know. And so that's what I, you know, that's what I believe recovery to be, and that's what the book is trying to convey to us, you know, helping others, you know, so they can have their spiritual experience and have their problems be removed. So that's all for the third edition, my friends. We are going to now tackle Foreword to the fourth edition. Not as much highlighting or underlining, but a lot of, you know, vital information all the same. And then we're going to close for today. So Foreword to the fourth edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the book that you have. This is the book that I have. This is the book that we're working at. This is the most current, you know, copy of the big book. This fourth edition of Alcoholics Anonymous came off the press in November of 2001. Okay, so this is a couple months before I decided to get clean and sober in 2001. This edition just came out at the start of a new millennium. Since the third edition was published in 1976, worldwide membership of AA has just about doubled. I mean, it is absolutely off the charts how AA is everywhere. It's doubled to an estimated 2 million or more, and this is estimated. I think some of these numbers may even be higher, truth be told, with nearly 100,800 groups meeting in approximately 150 countries around the world. It's everywhere, you know, and the hopes is that if you are somewhere where you are struggling with alcohol, drugs, or whatever it is, that the type of help that you need, it can be found there. Okay, literature has played a major role in AA's growth, and a striking phenomenon of the past quarter century has been the explosion. Look at these words: phenomenon, explosion. Let's underline these words. Explosion of translations of our basic literature into many languages and dialects. I believe the count in 2013 was the big book has been translated into 67 different languages. 67. That is amazing. You know, what other book in the world has been translated into that many different languages? You know, there's absolutely something going on here, and it's something good. In country after country where the AA seed was planted, it has taken root, slowly at first, then growing by leaps and bounds when literature has become available. Currently, Alcoholics Anonymous has been translated into 43 languages. Okay, so this was in 2001. 43 languages. 2014, I believe it's 61. No, 60, 67, excuse me. 67, like I said. Who knows? It might even be more by this point. I mean, this process just continues to amaze. As the message of recovery has reached larger numbers of people, it has also touched the lives of a vastly greater variety of suffering alcoholics. When the phrase, "we are a people who would normally not mix," page 17 of this book, was written in 1939, it referred to a fellowship composed largely of men, there's a few women, with quite similar social, ethnic, and economic backgrounds. Nowadays you go to a meeting and it's like the United Nations. You're going to see all types of different people from all over the world. It's just like it's like a recovery melting pot. You got men, women, gay, lesbian, transgender, black, white. I mean, it's all types of people mixing. We would normally be a group of people who would not mix, but we're brought together with the same common problem of alcoholism. Some of us drug addictions, so whatever, some other things. Some of them, like me, have all those issues, but there is a common solution as well, and that's the spiritual experience. Like so much of AA's basic text, and the words basic text are circled, okay, basic text, a book that's meant to be studied, okay, those words have proven to be far more visionary than the founding members could have ever imagined. If Bill, Bob, Bill D, they really had no idea of what this really was going to turn into. I mean, it absolutely blew up like nitro, The stories added to this edition represent a membership whose characteristics of age, gender, race, and culture have widened, okay, and deepened to encompass virtually everyone the first 100 members could have hoped to reach. There's no person of any ethnic background, religious background, gender, race, creed, color, religion, lack of religion, that this can't work for. It is out there and it is available to us all. While our literature has preserved the integrity of the AA message, and I have the word integrity underlined, it's telling you that while some of the stories get moved around and some of the changes that were made, in the foreword to the first edition that we talked about last week, the integrity of the book doesn't get compromised. The first 164 pages are virtually almost the same as they came off the press. The solution has not wavered. Now, it's changed in some of our meetings, due to the inception of treatment centers and things like that, and the times have just changed. But the bottom line is the recipe has remained the same. If you do what our forefathers did and continue to do, you will have a spiritual awakening. You will have your problems solved. You'll be recovered. Okay? Integrity. Sweeping changes in the society as a whole are reflected in the new customs and practices within the fellowship. So it's telling you that there are some new things that people are doing inside the fellowship. The fellowship is different than the program. They are not the same thing. The fellowship's the people. The program is the steps. Taking advantage of technological examples like I'm doing right now, being online, talking to you, the viewer, recording this via an iPad, that's taking advantage of the technological examples. For example, AA members with computers can participate in meetings online. By 2001, all types of recovery stuff. There's recovery websites all over the place, meetings online. I could be talking to somebody in Japan right now for all I know. It is absolutely blown up. Sharing with fellow alcoholics across the country, around the world. In any meeting, anywhere, AAs share experience, strength, and hope with each other in order to stay sober and help other alcoholics. I have that underlined. Let's go ahead and highlight that as well. Stay sober and help other alcoholics. This is the goal after having a spiritual experience, or by having a spiritual experience. You don't want to just fight this demon today. You want to get still sober. You want to get clean. You want to stay that way. And part of staying that way is the upliftment of your spiritual condition, which is work and self-sacrifice for others. In whatever capacity that is. But it always helps to be in this capacity, helping, others who are afflicted. One alcoholic helping another alcoholic. One drug addict helping another, drug addict. It's without parallel. There's really nothing that's going to work better than that. Modem to modem or face to face, AAs speak the language of the heart. I have the language of the heart underlined. I used to live based on what was going on up here and thought I had it, and it was, wasn't until I had a spiritual experience and would feel God's power, that language of the heart, feel it in my heart that I'm making the right decision by doing this or doing that. Did my life get better? It was no longer predicated on me and my self-centeredness and my selfishness, but on God, and that's how God speaks through me. Speaks the language of the heart in all its power and simplicity. So we've just wrapped up all 4 forewords and the preface. Again, those weren't my favorite parts of the book, but there's a lot of important information that's chock full in there that will help us to get to the point of understanding what's going on later in the book. Again, what I'm teaching you, the viewer, is the addition and the subtraction, and as we get later on in the chapters, the multiplication and the division, and further on, more about alcoholism, how it works. We start talking about long division, statistics, logarithms. That's what we can equate all this work to. And all that stuff that happens, in steps 4, 5, 6, 7, later down the steps, it will be of paramount importance to understand this earlier addition and subtraction, these earlier things. So that's going to be all for today, my friends. Next week, we're going to start the doctor's opinion. The doctor's opinion is the medical estimate that one of the most revered men in AA's history, Dr. William D. Silkworth, put on paper. He wrote down his medical estimate of the condition that alcoholism is for men and women, which a lot of people, truth be told, don't really understand. Alcoholism's not like a bad sunburn. It's just, that's the symptom. But it wasn't, and he tried everything in his power to help people like, Bill W. But it wasn't until Bill W. had a spiritual experience and started to treat his condition as a whole from the inside out, was there any progress. And Dr. Silkworth witnessed this after trying every means in his power to get people like Bill W., Bill D. well. Nothing worked until she saw this household miracle. And so we're going to talk about, some of, the 2 letters that, Dr. Silkworth wrote, to back and help, the movement grow. And that's what the doctor's opinion entails. So we're going to go through that next week. Again, it's so important to, I'm spitting out all kinds of words, POI, orange, green, yellow, pink, I'm throwing all this stuff at you, I'm highlighting, I'm this, I'm that, I'm trying to convey thoughts to you that are of paramount importance. It's important to probably go back over this stuff when you're not here with me doing this, when you're not looking at this. It's one thing to understand it academically. It's a different story to use it and to put it into practice in your life and to understand that this is where it came from. This was the birth of this program, of all the 12-step programs. The steps as being the path, the spiritual experience as being the solution, being recovered, having that obsession taken away, having that new freedom, a life that's free of the bondage of self. This is the goal that we're working towards. So until next week, my friends, again, I hope everybody's doing well. Hope your families are well. Remember to pay attention. There's a lot of stuff happening around you. If you're an alcoholic of the hopeless variety or not, whatever your condition may be, whatever your issues may be, remember to pay attention. Look at opportunities to use this work in your life. Remember to pay it forward. Nothing is going to ensure more permanent recovery than one addict or one alcoholic helping another. And remember the most important thing, to rely on God and not on others. If you are like me, you were placed in, a position of being beyond human aid. And obviously that there was nothing that could stop you from drinking, drugging, or whatever it is that you were, what behaviors you were engaging in. But what can help you, what the solution is that will get you sober and keep you sober is the power of God, of your understanding. And you get to that point by working the 12 steps and having a spiritual experience. And you get to keep that by uplifting your spiritual condition, and that's by work and self-sacrifice for others. So that's all for Trudge today. I enjoyed that immensely, even though it's not one of my favorite chapters. I'm looking forward to getting into the book with you guys. Again, your big book is like the most powerful weapon you're going to have, because it's the point of reference to which that you can always go back. If you hear something in a meeting or someone says something, they may have a lot of time and you're not sure, try to find it in the book, Does it resonate with something you've heard in the book? You know, can you actually find that in the book? You know, I take my book to meetings. You know, I never showed up at the dealer's house without the money, and never went to the crack house without the lighter. You know what I mean? Why would I go to a meeting without my big book? You know, it's the point of reference, and I'm ready to use it at a moment's notice. You know, you're going to find out in meetings that not everything you hear is so. There's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of, you know, misinformation and opinion sharing in meetings, you know, but I like to have my big book with me because it's the source. You know, it doesn't lie. The literature is there, and it's directive towards those who want it. And so that's all for today. Again, I hope everyone's well. Trudge will be coming out every single Monday. You know, I'll go ahead and upload this today. And until such time, you know, I hope everybody is doing well, and be well. And thank you for allowing me to serve everybody. Namaste.